Hey everybody and welcome once again to my YouTube channel. In the previous video, we have discussed the two parts of the volume 1 of The Second Sex by the French existentialist philosopher Simone de Beauvoir. In the present video, we are going to move further from part 3 of volume 1, which is titled as Myths. You can check out the previous video from the link in the description box. So without a further delay, let's jump into it.
Life goes on and 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 on.
As I told you, the third part of volume 1 is titled as Myths and consists of 3 chapters in it. In the very first chapter, Beauvoir presents her central theories regarding how men have mythologized women. She begins by reiterating that men have established women as other in order to subjugate her economically, and also that it suited their ontological and moral ambitions. The second sex makes a clear distinction between the myths and facts regarding the woman's situation in the society. Beauvoir states that historically men have always controlled all the power. Since their earlier days of patriarchate, they have considered it best to keep women in a state of continuous dependence. There are cultural beliefs governing myths which are being transmitted from generation to generation through the familiar stories, fairy tales, folk tales that convey certain myths or beliefs regarding the inferiority of women. Men have written the history of women and have also defined the mythological substructure of their inferiority, which is crucial in forcing women into a coagulated, inessential object position. Beauvoir refers to the most dominant biblical myth, the story of Eve, who was never an equal for Adam. Since from the very beginning we find that Eve's potential as an individual is irrelevant. She is only a convenience for Adam, a thing, an object. Beauvoir postulates that the subordination of women serves the economic interest of men and also suits their moral ambitions. The objectification of women and the generalizations that define them are common in myths among human culture. Beauvoir investigates the myths of women, including the myth of woman as nature, in her roles as mother and spouse. Firstly, let's talk about the myth of woman as nature in her role as spouse. In this version of myth, nature is seen as a spouse by the man. He finds that all natural objects, the shining stars, moon, sunlight, the darkening of caves, wild flowers, have feminine essence. This myth is man's projection of woman as a magical and sexed object, suitable to be conquered and possessed by man's virility. In the second chapter, The Myth of Woman in Literature, Beauvoir analyzes 5 major novelists to show how most of them tend to mythologize women and reinforce her status as the other. The list includes 5 contemporary writers: Monderland, D.H. Lawrence, Claudel, and Breton. The one exception to the list is slightly older writer Stendhal, whom she credits for depicting women as true human beings. Beauvoir believes that with the exception of Stendhal, all these writers have represented women as a reflection of collective myths. They show men as the destiny of women, and in every case, she is required to forget herself in her love to a man. The woman is basically shown as a reflection of the ego and ideas of man. Beauvoir calls Stendhal a tender friend of women, being capable of creating women characters whose identities are made by their specific experiences. He avoids the mythic woman disguised as mermaid, morning star, or nymph. In the third chapter, titled as Myth and Reality, Beauvoir considers how these myths affect the everyday life. She defines the difference between static myths and concrete reality. The static myths provide a certain idea to man, who then attempts to project these myths in real situations. But in concrete reality, women cannot be encompassed by a single idea. They manifest themselves in numerous ways. Thus, Beauvoir feels that literature propagates different kinds of myths about women and womanhood.